I think we've got our theories on that, but I'm interested in what you think can help leaders turn around to be just more inclusive.
I think there are different, like I went to a talk the other day, and it was the UK country manager for LinkedIn. And he was explaining, he's gay, and he was explaining how long it took for them to have a 50-50 workforce, men and women. It took them 4 years when he became the UK country manager. And one of the things he wanted is to have a more diverse workforce. And what they did is every time they were finalists for a job, there would be a man and a woman. So they would be, very equal in a sense. But it still took them 4 years to get on a 50-50 balance. And we're not even talking about, so now we have 50, men and women, and then we have blacks, and then we have Asians, and then we have LGBT, and, how do you add all that diversity? I think what is happening now is there are several recruitment companies that are focusing, and they realize that if they focus on certain types of groups, they might be able to help the companies to become more diverse. I'll give an example. So My Work is a company that I mentor. They're twins, they're gay, and they is LGBT recruitment. So that means that let's say if you have a law firm or if you're LinkedIn and you want to hire LGBT people, you can't put it there on an advert, right? So you can't say we're looking for women or we're looking for black people, you can't. So how do you know in an interview you can say, so are you gay? You can't ask that either. So how do companies have a challenge. So what they do now is, so they have this website, so go to My Work, and you know that if you put an advert there, you know that all the applicants will be gay. So then there are lots of recruitment companies that are now, for BAME, which is Black and Asian minority, LGBT, Women Like Us is another website, for women that are going back to employment. So that is a way. But I think companies have to think differently. Obviously, if you have a board only with men, and if they're white over 50, they probably don't know My Work, and they don't know Women Like Us. So it will be very hard for them to get. So there must be, in the board, there must be others. Or within the company, speak to people that maybe not in management, but they will have this knowledge, because it's most likely they will have gay friends, they'll have black friends, and then ask where. I think there's a little bit of research that needs to be done, and top management, I think, has to kind of mingle a little bit more with the general members of staff to understand probably where they would find if they really want to add diversity. Because just like LinkedIn did, it took them 4 years, but they got there. But it was part of their KPIs. They wanted that change to happen. And I think if top management really wanted that change to happen, they'll find a way.
It's about helping them want it.
Yes. I think it's more about wanting, because when we put our minds into it, as I just said earlier, there is no way you can't find it. If you really want that to happen, and if you have the resources, you will find. You find websites, you find consultants. There are many different ways that you can find people. You can add diversity to your business.
This may be contentious, I don't know, but all those white men over 50. Do you think?
Are you over 50?
Do you think that? I don't regard myself. Yes, I am, but I don't regard myself as typical. And some would say I'm just plain weird. But have we got just to wait till they've retired and got out of the way? I mean, you say LinkedIn took 4 years. That's incredibly fast. By societal standards, that's unbelievably fast. I mean, they're predicting equal numbers in senior management in this country, sort of 2060 or something. So, is this just about waiting for people who don't have the open mind that you're talking about? The people who want to bring about change.
Yeah, because the I can't remember his name, which is really bad, but he looks very young. I think, I don't think he's even 40. So, the country manager for LinkedIn. I do think there is a need there for those who are in management to go, because I know they have a lot of experience, but obviously they don't have probably the diversity within the groups. I'm sorry to say, but the straight world normally is very different from the gay world,
Right.
because we mingle much more. Like if you go to a gay club, you have a group of 10 gay men, let's say, and you're going to have a CEO, you're going to have a cleaner, you're going to have a manager, you're going to have a supervisor, and then you're going to have a black, an Asian, and they're all talking, and it doesn't matter what they do. And now in the straight world, you go to Oxford, you mingle with people from Oxford, you probably marry someone from Oxford and all your friends from Oxford, and rarely you're going to have people that are outside of that circle. So it's very different.
It's based on survival, though, isn't it? I mean, fundamentally, you gather with people. There was at some elemental level there was a need to survive, and you talk about the gay community. It's beautiful in the way you describe it, but it's. I get the sense that there was this at some level a need to survive, which brings people together, and they don't care. They're not worried about where the person comes from. It's just that there's a sense of identity, which
I understand the sense of identity, but I think the problem with that is there is no diversity. While yes, we go, obviously when you go to a gay club and then you have all ages and you have all types of jobs and then people talk and while if you go to a straight club, it's not really people around the same age and then they're doing the same thing, and it's much more unlikely that, for example, a married couple will have a friend who's single. It just doesn't happen very often. I don't want in any way to generalize or patronize, but it is most of the time, or the majority is always like that. So what happens then is I'm on board level, C level, and I'm over 50 and I've worked with you for 10 years in the past, and your brother who is very similar. So there is a vacancy, there is word of mouth, there is a CV, and then you got the job. So, and then what happens is it stays within the same powers. So, do you see what I mean? Mm-hmm. For that to happen so we really need to hire people from outside. So we must then put that out there, and we must put with women like us, and we must put with my G work, and we must talk to others, which unfortunately doesn't happen, especially depending on the type of industry. If you're talking about oil and gas, if you talk about engineering, if you talk about tech, it's mostly men. Obviously, there is a disproportionate number of men that decide to go into STEM. I know there's a big thing about women now, going to STEM and getting those jobs. But there are industries, unfortunately, because of the way society is, there is a huge number of men going to certain industries, while there's a certain number of, like, for example, PR and marketing. You are the woman or a gay man. It's like, in PR, I know. I don't think I've ever met a straight man in PR, right? So I'm sure they are out there, but but I never met one. But, there are, like, while if you go to engineering, in a company with 1,000 engineers, how many are going to be women? If we talk about 100, 10%, if that, is it reality? So, there is a lot there, that as much as companies want to change sometimes, you don't have the number of professionals. And when it comes to businesses, you have to hire the right person. You can't hire just looking for a woman if there are 100 men applying for an engineering job and there is only one woman applying and she's not the right person. The company cannot hire her just to have the numbers. Do you see what I mean? So there is as a business owner, I know the difficulty as well.
Yeah, it's funny because at the moment we're doing quite a lot of research around oil and gas and STEM, and it's fascinating because from what I'm learning, the number of women coming in at the bottom it's a very healthy number.
Okay.
actually. But when they've been there a year, they look up in this organization and all they can see
Is
men, particularly at the top level. And if there is a woman on the executive team, it's not an operational post that she's holding. You know, it might be HR, it might be chief counsel. But they look up, and then on top of that, they look at the hours that these guys work, and they say, "This is silly.
Okay.
I'm not going to do
They
that."
want to have family. They want to look after the kids.
I think that there's a sense that it's so masculine at the top, and it's not a healthy masculine. It's an unhealthy masculine, which is driven by competition, and it's driven by winning over somebody else losing. All these sort of concepts, which I think for a lot of women, if they're true to themselves, look at that and say, I don't want that. I don't want to work like that. I want to express I've learned engineering. I love engineering, but I want to be in a place where I can be myself as well, kind of thing. I'm speaking for women. It's a very dangerous thing to do.
It is a very dangerous thing to do. I don't know. I'm trying to kind of feel what's emerging for me, I guess, as you speak around kind of your experience of coming to a country and being very much outside of your comfort zone and having people that help you and having that need and determination to create a business yourself, not necessarily because you wanted to, but because you had to. And the people that helped you along the way. And I suppose, is it the same thing? And you were talking about there are all these migrants that have all these skills, but they don't have the opportunities. And I think that feels similar in diversity as a whole, that there are people with lots of skills and that maybe that they aren't given the opportunities to fulfill their potential. And I suppose the real thing is, as leaders, as organizations, what procedures can you put in place to really provide more opportunities to reach more people and help more people fulfill their potential in the same way that you were able to do on your journey, that
Sure.
you had people supporting you and opportunities, but you had an internal drive as well. And it's that kind of when those things come together, because you can have an internal drive, but then maybe no one's there to help you or support you or give you an opportunity, or you could have all the opportunities you wanted, but no internal drive because you don't know what your purpose is or you don't know what your skills are. And so it's when those two things come together that people are really able to flourish. And it seems that you're very good at sort of seeing how that works together and making that a very strong part
But
of
I
business.
think 80% it comes from you. I always, like when I've done research and I've talked to people, and 80% of the barriers are in people's minds, right? So I have an accent, but that never stopped me from talking, from doing public speaking. I gave a TED talk. It was never for me an issue. While I talk to other migrants and but I don't speak English well. Well, if you don't speak English well, go to an English class. Do you know what I mean? So there are so many barriers that put people in their minds. Just like you mentioned, women who don't want to get to the top, because I don't want to. It is a barrier that you're putting for yourself. I don't want to work those hours. Well, therefore you don't get the job. Unfortunately, if the job that you want, you need to work 6 hours a week, you are not prepared. You're putting a barrier there. So there is only so much the company can do. And the same with migrants is exactly the same. You have an accent, lack of vocabulary. People laugh at me because of the way that I speak, or because of, like, for example, I had issues recording videos. I would never record a video because I thought I sounded too gay. Nobody would listen to me. And it was only one day when I had a coaching to be able to help me to get over that fear. And I did. And then now I think, if you don't like my voice, if you think I'm too gay, stop the video. If you don't like what I'm saying, stop the video, right? Stop this. Stop listening to me, because I'm not going to stop talking. So barriers are, for people to achieve what they want, 80% needs to come from them. Then I agree. 20% is maybe, it's not the right environment, or maybe you don't have the right skills. And so there is a lot there. But if you have the drive, and if you want something to happen, and if you start asking people and telling people, and you start doing Facebook Lives and asking, I need help, people will help. The same way that people come to me and I help them, and the same way that I went to people and I asked for help, and people helped me. So I think people need to get over their barriers and their fears, then they will be able to achieve more.
Choice. The thing that really struck me there in what you're saying is there's a
I'm drinking from his mug. I don't know if you have that on the camera. I have to say that I love. Look, if you can do a zoom on the
You're cruel.
Amazing branding. I have to say this is cool. Cheers.
Oh dear.
Cheers.
I was seriously embarrassed. Anyway, there we are. So what I really heard there was you inferring that if you want to get on, you've got to conform in an organization. Like if you don't want to work those hours, then you're not going to get the job, and so on. And I think that as I look at business today, and I project forward, it seems to me that the way that organizations are run today is not going to be the way that successful organizations are run in the future. I think we're in a very fast changing environment. Bloody mug. And I think that because, I mean, the sort of standard things, because there's so much data, because there's so much rush, because there's so much information, you have to make decisions so fast. I think a lot of people are overwhelmed, right, by the way that they work, which just makes them sick, essentially. So the reason that we set up Serenity and Leadership in the first place was to help leaders of the future develop the skills that they need in the future. And I think these are going to be places where people at the top of organization see that women are coming in and then leaving because the way that they're running the organization actually doesn't fit for the way that people want to live in the future. So I'm wondering, because in a sense, whilst you're you are very entrepreneurial and stuff, I feel there's that sort of, and maybe it's a pragmatic conforming because that's how you've had to be successful. You can't just make people change in order to suit the way that you want to be. But at the same time, I wonder what you're going to be doing in 5 or 10 years and how you're going to be leading then.
Sure. Well, I think that is, you must conform to certain rules and to certain, like for example, do you want to be successful in the UK? You must speak English. So you have to conform, right? So you move to Germany. If you don't speak German, you're not going to be successful. So it's as easy as that. So I think that there are certain things that you must conform, right? You must understand the British rules. If you're running a business, you must understand, why the financial year starts on the 6th of April. There are certain things that you must understand and conform the rules. Now, there are certain things that may be right. I think if the culture of the organization, maybe it is too masculine, it is too, competition is very fierce. Therefore, women or any other, let's not just say women, but, maybe migrants or BAME or the LGBT community don't want to go to that top because they fear or because they think, well, I don't want to go. I don't have to have that lifestyle.
And also because it's actually a lot more difficult for them to get up there, even if they did want to conform.
Sure.
Because there's a pressure coming down on them that says, you don't look like me. I'm not happy with you coming up and standing by me or taking over from me.
Sure. So I think what we need to agree on here is that it is really top management that has to change, and because they need to become role models for those who are at the bottom, who are starting, the assistants, and so they can see themselves in a few years at the top. At the moment, most organizations, there isn't that diversity in their role model, but there are many companies that Google is doing that, Facebook is doing that. So it's great to see the big tech giants. They are being the role models of business to show that it can be done, just like LinkedIn did. It was fantastic to hear that it took them 4 years in the UK to get to that stage, but they did. So if they can do it, then other companies can do that too.